So Jeff broke my shoulder today.
I didn't break nothing. I did karate kick you a couple times.
You tried. Did you hit my groin? I think so.
I bit it, actually.
That's what that was.
That's the only way that I can complete a half guard sweep against good old James. The old ball bite.
The face. Ball bite.
Yeah. Biting them nuts. Hello all, and welcome to Jiu-Jitsu by the Train Tracks. I'm your host, Jeff Spain Jr. This is my man, James Williams, over here in the co-host seat. This is episode number 22. Today, we are going to talk about
stuff.
No clue, actually.
We'll figure it out.
We didn't pick a topic. I did just get done watching the Gordon Ryan interview on Joe Rogan's podcast.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I just recently switched over to Spotify from Pandora, which I would recommend everybody do because Pandora is garbage, like straight up, you know. You can't do anything from the app when it comes to your account, whether it's upgrade or even like shutting down your account.
You definitely can sign up though.
If you're a company, man, if you're like a company that makes it difficult for people to like part ways with you, then I don't want to mess with you. You know, like,
well, you don't know that when you get in. I think that's part of the design. Like, I have to give you a way out, which is you going and finding a computer, connecting to the internet, going to the website, not getting distracted while you're on your way and going and doing something that isn't a part of what you're doing. It is. It's a good marketing scheme. Like, but make the app as simple as possible. Hey, you can sign up, but that's it.
That's just so snaky, man. So snaky. And
it's
you know,
business.
Yeah, it's business.
It's business.
You know, AT&T's a prime culprit for that kind of behavior too. Like, because I've had a history with them. Like, you know, like cursing out multiple customer service representative. Yeah, like I was trying to shut my down, man, and like they just could not get the job done. And you know, they started charging me, and like, you know, the old house I used to live in, the internet never even worked. Like, they had a guy come out, started charging me. I was like, I'm still waiting for this stuff to work. It never worked, and they wanted me to pay a cancellation fee for something that never worked, and it was just like, you know, you're going to battle against this
conglomerate.
You know, when people talk about robots taking over the world, I mean, it's these fucking companies and their call centers, you know, these automated voicemails, this organism of like all these calls coming in, and they're just trying to shoot you off into, you know, waiting for 30 minutes to an hour on
hoping
hold.
You tap out.
Yeah, hoping you're just like, okay.
Forget it. I'll just keep paying it. It's not worth my time.
I was closing a checking account recently, and they were like, you know, it was a 30-minute hold, and I was like, I can't stay on the phone. Like 30 minutes is too long. And I was calling pretty late at night. It was like 9 o'clock on a Tuesday or something. Like, who's calling? How many people are calling the bank that late at night? Do you call the bank that late at night?
No, my bank isn't open after business hours. I have a local bank.
Oh, y'all don't have like a 1-800 call service or anything like that?
No, I bank with Reliant, and they're
I was switching to a local bank,
bank.
so that's probably the right move, right? Go local. Shop local, folks.
Yeah, support your local businesses.
Yeah.
That's what all this is about.
Hey, how crazy is it that you can go into some businesses right now, and it's like COVID is still like the most crazy threat in the universe to everybody, and then you'll go to the next store, and it's like nobody's wearing masks, and it's like COVID was like never even a thing, you know?
Yeah, it's like the weirdest episode of the Twilight Zone ever.
Yeah.
Like, here we're drinking Kool-Aid. Here we're not.
Some places I'll go in, I won't have a mask on, and you know, I'm getting looks, and then other places, you know, I'll have the mask on, and
then you're getting looks.
Getting looks for having a fucking mask on. So, you know, this is where we're at, America. You know, it's cool.
You know, well, you know, it doesn't bother me much because I'll be honest with you, Jeff. As a black man in America, I get looks no matter
you
what
get stared
store
at no matter
I
what.
go into, whether I got
don't
a
think it
mask
has to
on
do
or
with
not.
you. I mean, being black probably helps.
Yeah, there's a little
but
bit.
But you're also a larger man with
like
tattoos. When people see you, James, it's kind of like, oh wow, look at this, like, this individual, this samurai type individual.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, man, you walk the talk too. So well, you don't talk. You're not a shit talker, really, except to me.
Just you.
Yeah, he talks.
And Alex
talks a lot of smack to me.
And I don't say it loud. It's usually whispered, like in your ear.
Yeah, we definitely.
It's super close.
It's definitely between us. Like, it's not a spectacle. Like, we'll banter in the class from time to time.
Yeah.
But when it's actually like hardcore, like competitive with each other, it's just whispers. Right?
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I just scored 4 points there.
You know I'm about to sweep you, right? You know this is about to happen.
Yeah.
No, just hold on. Now, keep that grip. Keep that grip. Because you're going to need it to catch yourself here in a second.
Yeah. No, it's good. It's good. It's all in jest.
Yeah.
And it keeps you making the right decisions, right? Because I want to keep making it a competitive role for the people in here, And if I let myself go, then it's kind of like you lose a sense of that, that fire. You know?
Well, it also keeps it interesting because, there's a moment where when we are kind of going back and forth, you start double guessing yourself. You thinking like, does he know something that I don't? Like, should I not have this grip? And then you let it go, and then you just screwed yourself.
Yeah.
I did that to Alex on Saturday. I'm in his closed guard. He opens his guard up and just sitting there with his legs, like praying mantis style. And he's like, what you open your guard for? Well, you planning to do something? You plan to do something? And he closes his guard back. I said, what'd you close your guard back? Well, you nervous? Yeah, I'm nervous. I don't know what you're thinking.
That's funny.
It's just good to play mind games.
No, it is, man. I mean, that's part of it, too, especially when you get to that place where you have a lot of experience, and, like, more options, the matches get a lot tighter. So, the mind games come into play. And, I mean, that's where you see it at the elite level, too, And Gordon was talking about on Rogan, like, how they're so niche in their training and how they specific train. But, Gordon's whole thing was and he gives all of the credit to John Danaher, by the way. But his whole thing was like, man, I was 17 years old, and John Danaher was like, just, be unique and be somebody that's entertaining. And so it was like he was the one that kind of put the idea in Gordon's head to become the king, right?
Yeah.
Where he was like, wear Burger King crown and like, a little robe and no shirt and just walk around these tournaments. Like, it was a calculated thing. It's not like that's, he's playing on the social media.
Right. I think he's on the short list of people that will probably end up having the first legit jiu-jitsu movie. Like, there's a lot of people that you probably could make a movie about, but he would probably be one of the most entertaining. Like a beginning to end, cradle to grave type story.
Yeah, they might make like a movie that's like based on his life.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Not like, hey, let's do a documentary on Gordon.
Or maybe not. I mean, I think Gordon's interesting, but I think the whole Danaher Death Squad would be, everybody from like Craig to Tonin to Nicky Ryan, even Nicky Rod. I mean, these guys are movie stars to a degree in our world. Yeah. And, it's crazy to think about how long ago it was where I couldn't name a jiu-jitsu athlete to save my life. Like, I could tell you MMA, UFC stars.
Oh, yeah.
BJ Penn, Matt Hughes, Hoist Gracie,
rattle them off.
Sean Shirk.
Yeah.
Like, all these guys that were like, pinnacle MMA dudes. I mean, that's really what brought a lot of us to jiu-jitsu, right? Was watching MMA.
Right. Watching people use it as their way out or their way in or the way to finish it.
Speaking of MMA documentaries, The Smashing Machine, have you watched that before?
Mm-mm.
So it's a free documentary about Mark Kerr, who was one of the original, like, Pride Superstars.
Oh, yeah. I remember Big Ear Mark Kerr.
Yeah, I don't know if it was Pride then when he competed or if it was called something else, but it was definitely in Japan. And MMA in Japan was not just no holds bar, but no drug tests either.
It was ran by the Yakuzas. Let's just be honest.
You know, it's
That's
like allegedly ran by the Yakuzas, but
it definitely was ran by the
steroids
Yakuzas.
were rampant. You know, you had guys like Kevin Randleman, Fedor Emelianenko. I mean, this was like what I grew up in high school when this all started really infiltrating my my life and what my
infiltrating.
I mean, yeah, man, because for me, fighting was such a valuable thing, more valuable than money or anything for me, and I think sometimes childhood trauma, right, could all of a sudden put a lot of weight in certain things for you. Yeah. And being picked on at such a young age, to be able to not have anybody mess with you was just this huge.
Well, not just that, it's even as a child, there's the power struggle that you deal with in school, and you think to yourself, if I could be the kid that everybody in here is scared to mess with, I don't want them not to be my friend because I want friends, but I want them to know don't mess with me.
Well, now here's what happens though, right? It's the whole thing, hurt people hurt, right?
Yeah.
So what happens is you try to combat this pussified version of yourself.
Yeah.
And then what ends up happening is you overcorrect. Yep. And now you're a jerk. Yeah. And you're walking around with a chip on your shoulder.
Kid to now the kid that's bullying.
So it's this dangerous thing, man. And I think the older you get, the more experiences you have, the easier it is to recognize when you're acting on either side of the equation, right? Yeah. Whether you need to take a step back and back off, or whether you need to set a boundary, and part of setting boundaries is respecting yourself. And I know we're really rambling all over the place
this is a fluid conversation. That's the name of this episode.
Yeah.
Fluid conversation.
Just try to jump from topic to topic, and I'm trying to be honest too with where I'm at and how I think about certain things. But yeah, jiu-jitsu is one of the things that has been that equalizer for me, because at first, I wasn't equipped. Started with weightlifting and stuff, and then was boxing, and then jiu-jitsu was really where it just clicked.
So, I think a lot of people, as they're smaller in school, some kids just naturally get that spotlight, and they always have kids that flock to them, whether you're good at a particular sport or you're really good at drawing, or maybe you're the smart kid and other groups flock to you for that. Mm-hmm. Everybody kind of hits their thing at a different point. Are you saying that fighting is your thing? As you grew, did other kids start to flock to you because, hey, Jeff's pretty good at fighting or training at fighting, stuff like that?
No, I hung out in high school with a bunch of party animals.
Oh, okay.
It was that was the people that
the rock star scene.
Yeah, I identified with drinking and drugs and all of that stuff, but I at 25 is when I really cleaned my life up. Mm. Because I had trained before then, but training's hard work.
Yeah.
And when you're in your early 20s, I had the conscious thought, I was like, this is really tough. Maybe in a few years I'll come back to this, but for now I'm just gonna, because you think you have all the time in the world, right? That's the thing. When you're young, you think you have all the time in the world. And when I came back to it and I got serious about it, I was already kind of beaten and broken from that way of living. Mm-hmm. It was only a couple years, but in that amount of time, I really pushed my limits to a point where it's I can't go to a bar. I can't go to these crazy, if somebody invites me to a bachelor party, I'm probably not going to go. Things like that. It's I kind of know where that stuff leads for me. So I keep myself trapped in this routine of training, and then of course home life with the kids and stuff. But
so keep a circle of friends that are in the place that you want to stay, as opposed to looking for friends in the places that lead you to other avenues.
That's the thing. A lot of people need to kind of get rid of their friends, right? Because they're kind of keeping them in this spiral, and they they're people pleasers, and they don't want to, they feel like their friends rely on them when in reality they're a detriment to their progress as a human and their evolution, right?
It's seasonal.
Yeah.
You have friends that are in your life for a particular season and for a particular reason, and sometimes the leaves are falling off of that tree and it's time to go to a new season, but you're still trying to hold on to something that you shouldn't. It's not good for you. What I was asking you earlier, that moment for me, because I didn't hang around the cool kids. I was with the weird kids off on the side looking at comic books and drawing pictures and stuff. But the thing that kind of brought me out of my shell was I started understanding how cars work. And I started understanding how radios in cars work, and other kids like speakers, so they like the loudest radio. I figured out how to hook up radios. I then figured out how to hook up remote starters in cars and keyless entry and alarms, and then I started changing out timing chains and all kind of stuff like that. And it's funny, there's certain aspects of it that are similar to jiu-jitsu because you get into some positions that are super uncomfortable and you have to hold it for a while, long enough to finish doing what you're doing. So just imagine trying to work under your dashboard of your car. You've got two options on how to do it. You can curl in and look up like this, or you could turn over on your back, put your feet straight up in the air like into the headliner and start working upside down. So you're getting a lot of weird positions, and you have to hold it.
Yeah. Which
is kind of similar to what we do on the mats. Definitely not as brutal or as painful or as
but there's
uncomfortable.
a lot of feel involved, right?
You can't see what you're doing.
You're torquing a wrench, and you have to be able to tell if something's going to be stripped or so. There's a lot of nuance, and I've always struggled with anything automobile related or home improvement related.
We know Jeff.
I leave it to the experts.
Jeff's really good at jiu-jitsu.
I don't got no problem paying somebody to do all that stuff. But
it's funny that a lot of the things that I do, I could pay somebody to do it. I just get a little pleasure out of doing it myself.
Yeah.
And at the same time, you feel that sense of, well, I know what's inside of it. So I know it can't be these things. So if I do bring someone to come work on it and they tell me, hey, it's that part right there that needs to be replaced. Bullshit, it's that part because I just replaced it.
It's a time thing too, though, right? Like if it's something you enjoy, then if you screw it up, you don't mind going back and redoing things. And
right.
For me, like if I screw something up, it's the end of the world. Like I'm just like, there's no way I'm gonna go back and redo all this stuff.
Yeah.
So like for me to like go through and learn, and I have to hold some kind of interest. Like I have to have some kind of passion for it to a degree.
Right.
And that's what yard work is for me. Like I love doing the lawn and being outside and trimming. I've got this badass little John Deere that I'm cruising around in.
What are you doing on that John Deere?
Picking up chicks.
God, dude. Almost spit this water.
Picking up chicks,
Yeah, good Lord. I didn't know you had animals on your farm, too. Good Lord, Jeff.
Chicks and roosters,
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I go both ways.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I heard sheep were good for that.
Yeah, that's
little mutton.
Yeah.
Yeah. But no, it's funny. You mentioned that because Alex, one of our guys that trains here, shout out to Big Al. He provided the light, Big Al's Light Emporium. If you're looking for lighting. He actually was the exact same way when I first met him. Me and him worked together, and he'd come over to my house every once in a while, and I'd tell him, hey, man, you don't have to pay somebody to do that. You can change your oil yourself, right? Save some money. It's much cheaper. And he's like, nah, man, there's all kind of parts that you have to do that. Are you sure? Look, let's look at it. And a lot of times he'd just watch me do something, and he'd slowly pick it up, or he got to a point where it's like, well, I don't even need James to show me now. I can do this on my own. And he's super handy, man. He's got a crappy set of tools, but, it ain't the tool, it's the technician,
it's
right?
It's the tool using the tool.
Yeah, there you go, in his case. But it's funny. A lot of this kind of plays into the mentality that you use for jiu-jitsu because it puts you in that zen moment. Like if you're talking about cutting the grass. Something as simple as, or what seems like it's simple as cutting the grass, it's physical. You're working a specific pattern. Mm-hmm. You're being aware of your surroundings, but at the same time, you get to kind of veg out and kind of feel what's going on as opposed to see what's going on. And at the end of it, the results is your reward. So.
Yeah, it's kind of like when you vacuum in the house, right?
Yeah, those lines.
Yeah, those lines, man.
I like love to get some vacuum lines.
I like to feel like I'm doing some quality work, and when I feel like I can't do that, I'm just like, let me just tap out. Let me bow out of this.
Yeah.
It's funny people's thresholds for different things and like what they're willing to do and what they're not willing to do.
You say, like, my biggest thing is I dislike when people use the word never. I'll never do that.
Yeah, never say. And
your threshold may change.
But then, like, I hate it when people say never, but it's true. You know, like, yeah, you just can't predict what's going to be happening from 2 years, 5 years from now, and you know, it's going to be accumulation of your habits, right? So it's like, you know, what are you working on every day, and what are you trying to get better at? And that looks different for everybody, you know. I think part of the reason I went this route instead of music, because I was really big into music when I first started this school, was that, you know, to make it big and like work a full-time career in music is extremely difficult in the saturated market that is, you know, Nashville, Tennessee. Not to mention COVID has pretty much just smashed the entertainment business altogether. So being in music right now would have been a really tough choice because I know a lot of artists are struggling. But to open a jiu-jitsu school, right, and sharing something that not only like keeps me healthy, keeps me, you know, wanting to. It's a lot more like interaction with the people that you're working with, you know, like your training partners. It's with music, you know, you're playing to fans, people like your stuff, but outside of you performing, you don't really have a connection with your fans in the way that people maybe think they do. Yeah,
well, I mean, you've got the social media aspect of it, but, you know, me personally, whenever I see conversations back and forth on social media between a celebrity or just someone who's on their way and just Joe Blow down the street, it always feels like it's either a canned response or it's forced. The only time you really, or I feel like you really see the genuine person is when one of those fans have hit a trigger point for that celebrity and then they respond a little out of character or a little more direct. That's the only time I feel like you get a genuine social media response from somebody.
Yeah. Yeah, usually it's because somebody commented some mean shit, you know.
Or you tried to, like, who is it? Gal Gadot. She tried to say something nice about Stephen Hawkins. I know this is something that happened a while ago. She tried to say something nice about Stephen Hawkins, and the internet chewed her up because she basically made it seem like him passing away makes it easier for his life than living in the chair that he was basically stuck in his whole life. I mean, she's just trying to do something nice, but everybody chewed her up, and of course she started swimming backwards. It's like, dude, like.
Well, this is what COVID's done, is it really brought to light the fear that some people have about death, you know, and then the carelessness that maybe some people have about death. Yeah. So it's like, you know, you have people on opposite ends of the spectrum, and I think you have to have a healthy balance. Like, it's good to be healthy. It's good to be cautious of germs, washing your hands, right? If you're going to be around.
For what we do, please wash your hands. If it's staff, stay home. Yeah,
I mean, it's like, you know, but when you start policing that kind of thing, that's where it gets weird, right? Like
I'm still an adult. This is still what we consider a free country. If I choose not to wash my hands, that's my prerogative. Now, you don't get to put me in jail because I didn't wash my hands.
And just because there's a vaccine out, you know, like, there's still a lot of people that are still scared to leave their home. And, you know, if they're waiting on the government to give them the okay, that's never going to happen, you know.
Yeah, you got to feel comfortable in yourself.
I mean, at the end of the day, the people in charge kind of want us to be in our little boxes. You know, it's
be
like
controllable.
Yeah, be controllable.
Manageable.
It doesn't really matter what party you vote for, just as long as you're pissed off about the other party. You know,
Right.
It's like, but so many people just don't. You know, they get vindictive about their ideologies and what they think is right or wrong, and what party they think is the best. But you know, and being middle of the road or whatever you want to call it, you know, both sides hate that because it's like, oh, this mother can't make a decision to save his life. You know, he's so wishy-washy. Like,
well, you know, that's the thing that kind of makes it complicated because people want you to be black or white.
Well, it depends on the issue, right?
Solid or soft. Like, there's no in between. It's got to be something specific. When most things in the universe aren't that way. No. There isn't always a yes or a no. Like, when you're dealing with people, it's always going to be 9 times out of 10, the answer is maybe. And you have to kind of take a little bit of yes and a little bit of no with every answer that you get, depending on whatever it is. These are very complicated emotions, situations, and feelings that people are dealing with. So,
and experience trumps everything.
Oh yeah.
You know, I mean, like if you've had some kind of traumatic experience in your life, it's gonna sway you regardless of how illogical or like just, you know, that combined with belief in whatever it is you're doing, it can be a scary thing. You know. Yeah.
This is another awesome episode. I hope that we put together enough content that Jeff can crank out an episode 22 from this. It's kind of random, just like many people's minds. So hopefully you see yourself in what just happened today. Thank you for spending time hanging out with us. This has been James Anthony Williams, Jeff F. Spain Jr., another episode of Jiu-Jitsu by the Train Tracks. Please make sure you click the bell, subscribe, follow us on social media, and make sure you tell a friend that you enjoyed yourself today.
All right, now that we've creeped out our audience.